We all love metallic cardstocks, but sometimes getting lots of colors of metallic cardstock can get a little pricey. So in this video, I'm going to share how to make your own. Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca Keppel. In today's video, I am sharing how to make your own metallic cardstock using some of the latest colors of Simon Hurley for Ranger's Lunar Paste. I love Lunar Paste color and shine, and I've used them in tons of different ways. I have a bunch of videos that I'll link down below in the YouTube description box under the video. But for today, I want to share how to use it to make your own metallic cardstock. First, let me show you the 3 new colors of Lunar Paste and how I like to swatch them out. The first new color of Lunar Paste is called Game Over. It's a nice Christmassy looking red. The next color is called Midnight Snack. And then the third new color is called Fake Plant. And as you can tell, these colors are great for the holidays, but honestly, they fit really well into the rainbow of Lunar Paste that already exist, and they just expand that rainbow even more. So I'll share how I think they fit into the reds and greens that already exist, but first let's swatch them out on some cardstock. I like to swatch on both white and black cardstock so that you can see how they look on both, and I do this by die cutting some tags first, and then I'm going to use the Simon Hurley palette knife to swipe some color onto the white cardstock, and I want to do a nice thick application to cover up the white cardstock just to see how it looks on white cardstock. So I want both a thick application, which is what I'm doing with the palette knife, and then we'll do a thin application with a domed foam blender. So I want the swatching on white cardstock and black cardstock, and I wanted a thin application and a thick application so that I can see all the different options that I have in using the Lunar Paste. And you can see that Lunar Paste looks great on black, especially when you do that slightly thicker application so that it completely covers up the black, but it just pops off the black background there. So next we're going to swatch out the Midnight Snack with the palette knife, and again looks great on both white and black cardstock. And then once it dries, you do get that little bit of texture when you use the palette knife. It doesn't dry completely flat. You get that little bit of dimension and texture that you get by swiping with the palette knife. Okay, last color that we're going to use the palette knife with is the Game Over, and I was looking at the other red that already exists, the Bee Sting. The Bee Sting has a little bit more orange in it. This tends to have a little bit more blue, I think, in it. And it's a beautiful red, a great Christmassy red as well. For those of you who like that traditional Christmas red color, I think this will make you very, very happy for the holidays. It'll be great as little berries on wreaths. And you can see that Bee Sting is the only red that exists so far in the Lunar Paste palette. So this is a nice addition to that as well. Also, the look on the black cardstock, it will also look that way on a nice dark green cardstock or something like that. Okay, remember the way that I store my domed foam blenders is to put a square of Velcro on the top of the cap and then put the domed foam blender on top of that. So I'm going to use a little bit of the Lunar Paste that's still in the cap of the Lunar Paste. That's all you need, just a tiny little bit to see how it blends out on the white and black cardstock. So just use that dome foam blender just like you would with ink, kind of a circular motion, and blend that out. Now, it's really important to clean it right away so that it doesn't damage your foam. So just spritz it really good with water and wipe that Lunar Paste right off those foams. Okay, here's Midnight Snack. So you can see that when you use the domed foam blender, you can get a much thinner application where you can actually see the white cardstock underneath. That is not always my favorite. Sometimes I like it. It's nice kind of look of clouds or a sky, but I wanted to see this a slightly thicker application so that I could really see that color and the shine. And the Fake Plant is the same, just use a tiny bit more if you want to cover up some of that cardstock, but also it's nice to see that thinner application. Okay, so you can see Fake Plant is definitely very different than later Gator. It's kind of got that darker green to it, and that is going to be, again, a really nice addition to the rainbow, but then also it's a nice Christmassy green. Obviously, the other colors like the teals are going to be completely different, and the only other blue is a much lighter blue. So I'm going to put these on my tag. I've labeled them, and now we have the whole rainbow of lunar pastes at our disposal, ready to make some metallic cardstock with them. Now, let's take a look at easy tips and tricks to use these new colors to make your own metallic cardstock quickly and easily. Okay, my first tip is to use the domed foam blender. We're going to ink blend or lunar paste blend onto the cardstock. My next tip is to start with colorful cardstock. So usually when I'm working with lunar paste, I'm working on white or black, but for this metallic DIY cardstock, I think it works best if you start with the color that's close to the color that you're working with in the lunar paste. So I did grab a slightly darker color of green cardstock. You can go darker, you can go lighter, but I kind of recommend darker because then it really, when it shows through, it doesn't seem so jarring. And I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. Here I am blending Midnight Snack over white cardstock, and you can see here, you can see the white show through. So it's not really turning it into a metallic cardstock. Here I have kind of a tealish blue, darker color of cardstock, and look at the difference between these two. On the left, you get kind of that smooth application that looks like I'm actually turning that cardstock into a metallic paper or cardstock, and on the right we had the white showing through. So that's the biggest tip I have, is to use a color of cardstock that's close. If you don't have something close, you could probably get away with using black or a dark color that's similar enough that you can get by. So you don't need to have every color of cardstock under the rainbow here, just something close enough that makes it a little bit easier for you to use less lunar paste so that you have tons left for other projects, and the cardstock doesn't have to be super heavy, super thick. You can kind of work on whatever you have that's a colorful cardstock. So again, here, this red is not a perfect match by any means, but if you have a red cardstock as your base, it's going to be a lot easier to cover it up with the new Game Over Lunar Paste and make this look like a red metallic background cardstock. So I am just creating a whole bunch. This one here was a little different, but you could still see it looks better than on the white for sure. So I needed to use a little bit more of this lunar paste to really cover this up. But here, let me show you on the white how much lunar paste I had to use. So that's why I recommend using the colorful cardstock. You just save a lot of your lunar paste. Here I ended up using kind of a yellowish cardstock that I wanted to create a gold metallic, and it was nearly a perfect match. It really came out great. So again, some affordable, colorful cardstocks and then a jar of lunar paste, and you're going to be creating your own metallic papers in no time. They dry pretty quickly, and yes, they will curl a little bit. I'm going to show you how to deal with that later in the video. Now that we have some metallic cardstock on hand, let's use some of the new Simon Hurley for Ranger supplies to make some cards. First, I'm going to stamp a bunch of the penguins out from the new Simon Hurley for Ranger stamp set, Polar Penguins. These penguins are so cute and they're so much fun to color. And next, I'm going to use the Evergreens Peel Apart Rubber Background stamp. So you can see, you can use the whole background, you can use one row of trees, and there's also a single tree that, or two that pop out. I'm going to use the whole stamp set over a green background that we created. That's nice metallic looking background. I am going to treat this metallic looking background that we made with Fake Plant with lots of anti-static powder tool, because I am going to heat emboss on top of that lunar paste background. So I have to definitely make sure this is 100% dry. It is, did not take long to dry at all. And then I'm going to use lots of anti-static powder, and then I'm going to ink up the stamp stamp set with Versamark ink, put lots of pressure on there. And once that's done, I am going to just use a teeny tiny bit here and there of some white embossing powder. And I'm going to try and not cover all the trees 100% with that. And then I'm going to put my white embossing powder back in the jar. And then I'm going to add on the open spots like a silver glitter. So I didn't want either all white trees or all silver glitter trees. I wanted kind of a mix of the two. So that's why I did it that way. So now once I've completely covered up the rest of the open spaces with the silver glitter embossing powder, I'm going to heat set those both. So it'll have this nice kind of snowy, glittery mix to those pines on top of the already super shiny background. I'm going to cut off the bottom that I kind of messed up there. Here's how to make sure the panel is nice and straight. You're going to use a tape runner, not a dot runner, and you're going to cover the entire panel from side to side and top to bottom with the tape runner. So you can see those lines of adhesive. I know it seems like it's like completely overkill here, but I'm telling you, once you do that, if you adhere it down to a piece of cardstock that is pretty heavy, I'm using 110-pound Neenah Solar White cardstock as my base, then you will flatten it out and it will stay flat. It won't curl anymore. Look at that. You get a nice flat card panel that way. Okay, I did color in one of those little penguins. I'm going to pop him up on some foam squares. There's also some cute sentiments in the set as well. This one says sending holiday hugs, and look at all that shine in the background with that metallic paper that we made ourselves. And yes, you can heat emboss on top of it. Okay, I'm going to do the same type of technique, only this time I am using the Berries and Branches Peel Apart stamp set, and I am going to again use the entire 6x6 background stamp. I have taken the Misty mouse pad out of my Misty so that I can stamp on it. I use my Tim Holtz Media Grip in the Misty so that it kind of holds that cardstock in place. First, I am going to use some anti-static powder tool. Then I'm going to ink up the stamp with lots of Versamark ink. I don't want to miss any spots like I did on the trees, so I'm really making sure to go over it with lots of ink and then use my Debbie tool for lots of pressure. This time I am going to use gold embossing powder all over that panel, and you can't see the detail yet, but check it out. When you melt that embossing powder, you get all the detail of those fine little branches and then the cute little berries in between. And I love the gold embossing on top of that red shiny background. So I used a little bit of white gel pen on the berries just to add a little shine to those berries as well. And then I cut this panel down to 4 by 5 1/4, lots of tape runner behind it so that I could put it down onto an A2 piece of green cardstock. That's going to keep it nice and straight. If you don't want to mat it, if you don't want the margin around the outside, just put this down onto your card base and that will keep it straight. Okay, I'm going to pop up that little penguin. Again, this one's got a little scarf, and this sentiment says have a super cool Christmas. Absolutely love these little penguins and all the fun backgrounds you can create with the lunar paste and with those stamps. Okay, this time I am going to stamp some images on one of the lunar paste backgrounds that we created. So our metallic kind of teal looking background or light blue looking background, I am going to stamp the igloo and then the floating ice on that. And I'm going to use white embossing powder on top and then heat set that and then fussy cut that out as some little images to create on my card. So these images are very easy to fussy cut. I am no good at fussy cutting, so if I can do it, you absolutely can as well. Okay, here's some tape runner on the back of that midnight snack blue. It's such a gorgeous blue, and I'm going to mat that on a lighter blue. And once I have that, I also have the sentiment stamped and heat embossed on that midnight snack. It says, "I love chillin' with you." I'm going to adhere down the igloo and the floating ice, and then I'm going to pop up these two little penguins together. Just such a simple card, but check out all the shine that you get on both the iglue and ice and the background because we created that metallic paper with lunar paste. Okay, I'm gonna grab one line of the trees from the evergreens and I am stamping and heat embossing on the gold paper that we created. Again, lots of anti-static powder and then lots of Versamark ink and lots of pressure, and this time I'm using the silver glitter embossing powder all over the trees to create really pretty silver glittery trees on the gold shiny background. I love combining glitter with metallic shine. I think it's just fun to have different types of shine. And then I'm using one of the sentiments from the stamp set. It says, "Sending holiday hugs," and I'm gonna stamp that in Versamark ink, and then I'm gonna heat set some white embossing powder on top of that so the sentiment really pops and is easy to read on top of that gold metallic background with those shiny glittery trees. Again, to flatten out that card panel, I am gonna just mat it on an A2 piece of white Nina Solar White cardstock. It's 110 pound. That'll keep it nice and flat, but I am super impressed with all the shine you can create with these lunar pastes. I love this technique because you don't have to use a ton of lunar paste and you'll still have lots more to use for other techniques and cards. If you love seeing card making ideas like this and techniques, tips, and tricks and product reviews, please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit the bell so you can be notified every single time I have a new video available. As always, I want to thank you so much for stopping by and spending time with me today. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you again soon. I think that's it. I think that's it. That was like barely 2 takes. Okay, just fingers crossed.